Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News. Now imagine the healthcare system failing you so much that you feel like one of your only options left is to end your life through medical assistance and dying. That is the current reality for a Victoria, BC woman named Rosie Ashcraft. We're about to take you into her house so you can see and hear from her own story. She's also been on the legacy media recently, but she shared with us she's a little disappointed on how the story was told. She didn't feel like she really got to do justice for her community. She suffers from a rare disease called Ehlers-Danlos, and that community needs a voice because many of them, like her, are going through similar situations. Now, this is in the province of British Columbia, the same province where I have done many reports on the crumbling healthcare system, even when politicians like John Horgan and our health minister, Adrian Dix, act like they have things all together, to the point that if you even question them about the lack of healthcare in British Columbia, they might drop an F-bomb in the legislature.
Do you really care, or do you want to hear yourself? Do you want a headline, or do you want action?
Now, before I get to this important interview so you can hear what is going on in Rosie Ashcraft's life, you should know, if you're just tuning in for the first time, Rebel News makes sure that you are aware of the other side of the story that sometimes the legacy media doesn't cover. So if you want to make sure you're receiving updates for us and you don't miss out on that, make sure you go to rebelnews.com and give us your email and or phone number so you never lose touch. Here's Rosie's story. All right, Rosie, thank you for welcoming Rebel News into your home. When I saw your story, my heartstrings were definitely pulled, and I think it's important for our Rebel supporters to hear your story as well, especially many of them. The sanctity of life is very important. So again, thanks for being on Rebel News.
Thank you. And speaking of that, I'm going to shift my body this way because I can literally not turn my neck or my head about this much. So I have been cornered into considering medically assisted death. And the way that my quality of life is going because of my illness continuing to not be treated, especially regarding the surgery, but other things, is just not how I want to keep living. Like, I can't do my passions. I can't play guitar. I can barely sing. It's painful for me to sing. I just often just have to just lie in bed and be on the computer like some kind of in a sort of almost vegetative state. And when my son in that article, described me as robotic, it's because I get into these dissociative depressions because it's so painful that all that I can do is try to disassociate, which means I'm not even able to deal with my feelings, which is not healthy, No,
you're definitely going through a lot. Let's talk a little bit about what this syndrome is doing. What is it, and how has it affected your life?
Oh, man, it is such a doozy, like, especially when it doesn't get treated and it spirals out of control. So Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder. It's genetic, and it basically impacts the collagen, and collagen's your body's glue. So it's like it presents as loose joints, loose, unstable, hypermobile joints, and skin that is soft and often quite stretchy. Like on my neck, I can do the pterodactyl, which I'm not going to do because I have on my arms I can do this. But if you pull it hard enough, it can split and injure. So those are just signs that the collagen is weak and lax, and collagen's in your whole body. It's in your organs. It's very much in your spinal cord and your bones and your joints for sure. First of all, wear and tear injuries that produce arthritis and tendinosis, not tendinitis, tendinosis, which is worse. Soft tissue, nerve damage, all that kind of thing. So there's that. And the only real way to deal with that is from an early age to get people to strengthen their lean muscle, like things like Pilates and dance and swimming and stuff, to overcompensate for those weak joints and weak collagen. But a lot of people don't enroll in some kind of program when they're 4 for dance and gymnastics and whatnot. So people just think they're a little bit weak and soft, and they don't really know there's anything wrong with them. And they start to get fibromyalgia-like symptoms and feel sometimes fluish and stuff like that, because the wear and tear actually upsets the immune system, because your body's trying to constantly heal from little injuries all the time. Little micro tears, and you move a certain way, and normal person would stabilize themselves, but a person with Ehlers-Danlos will overextend their joint and maybe might rip it a little bit and stuff. So the immune system goes into overdrive, and we start having like autoimmune-like problems and allergy issues. There is a problem with like slowed healing. So infections can happen really easily, like UTIs especially, and stuff in the GI system that, you'd only find out if you went to a naturopath and pay lots of money to find out. Just insidious little infections. So that when those kind of things start to happen, the body starts to break down, and it kind of looks like an autoimmune disorder, or, like lupus or fibromyalgia, even MS. You can get neurological symptoms because the spinal cord, you start having nerve problems and the spinal cord's all fired up. So it's kind of like the great pretender. It can look like a whole bunch of other illnesses. And really you can tell that it's EDS when you look at the skin and the joints, and you make those positive diagnoses via traits. But a lot of doctors aren't doing that. They're doing the opposite. They're like trying to deny it, basically. So
yes, I looked into some of the documents you sent me about your diagnosis, and I know you had a major struggle being diagnosed. You were originally diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and some professionals didn't even believe. But I have looked through the documents, but there's also the element of our government here, because part of the reason you were even considering MAID is because you are unable to get a surgery that you need just to function or feel better
at this point
in time. And so what does that mean about the government of British Columbia? We have a health minister, Adrian Dix, who says, we're doing everything we can in this area and things are getting better.
We've made a profound effort to, particularly in this time of pandemic, for example, to reduce the time people wait for all kinds of surgeries.
It's been a constant struggle from the beginning to get them to accept it, and it shouldn't have been, because every doctor that I've seen who is, an expert in EDS says that I look like a person with EDS. Like I literally have the features, the skin, everything that you could have, the palate, everything. And so because of them not treating me as a person with EDS who would have all of these problems, like a person that has EDS, an infection or a flare or an injury, I was left to spiral out of control, particularly with my immune system. And it damaged my joints further to the severe level that it damaged my neck. Like the reason why it's unstable is that there's ligament damage in my neck. And that happened over a period of time. It wasn't a whiplash injury. It was like an inflammatory process that ate away at the ligaments. There, I was extremely sick back in 2016 and extremely thin and not hardly absorbing any nutrients. So any of that could have happened at that time. And it was after that period of time. And I was being treated very badly at that time. It got so bad that my husband and my father and the men, right, had to say enough, like we're going to sue you if you do not stop abusing my wife, my daughter. And so at that point, they started to reluctantly give a little bit of superficial care. But by that point, my neck was starting to hurt. And I knew enough I've done my research about EDS. I knew that it's a common complication and that I have the slim, long swan neck. So I was really prone to that. And I was like, oh, shoot, this is probably happening. This is probably what's going on. And I couldn't get any imaging in Canada at all for that. I had to get money together, including fundraise, to get to the States to even have it diagnosed, because you have to be upright. You have to get an upright MRI to look at, with gravity, like if it's, collapsing basically when you're standing up. So I had that diagnosed. I came back home, and they did nothing. They said they would refer me to a neurosurgeon. I waited 2 years, and after 2 years, I kept typing notes about my, getting worse, and being more and more bedridden, and more headaches, in pain, neurological symptoms, shaking, weakness, nausea. I kept documenting it and sending it, and after 2 years, all I got was, "Sorry, I can't help you. He doesn't feel he can help you," or doesn't feel he can be of any help to you, or something like that. And I cried for like 2 days straight. I was absolutely devastated. I was like, I can't believe I wasted 2 years on this. And then I didn't even have a GP. Like, all I had was an internist in the hospital who agreed to see me because my dad and husband basically threatened them and stuff. So like, I was seeing him, but he was very busy, and he was giving me like IV saline and, superficial beta blockers to settle down my nervous system, and pain meds like gabapentin, just superficial stuff. I finally did get a GP who is pretty understanding and pretty good. His hands are tied in a lot of ways, but he's a pretty good guy. And he said he would refer me to another neurosurgeon who I heard within the EDS community that he's sympathetic to the issue, and that he won't be able to help us personally, but he might be able to fill out an out-of-country care form. None of the 250-something neurosurgeons in Canada have been willing to undergo some remedial training to learn about how to fuse the neck in a person with EDS. Even though there is a technique to do it, people have gone through the surgery and gotten better, and not like miraculous, no EDS anymore, but just pain reduced, some quality of life, the ability to be upright more than 30 minutes. They've gotten a better life. And sometimes we need more than one surgery. And their attitude is that they don't want to do any surgery is the problem, because we do need sometimes more than one surgery. In fact, usually on average, person with EDS will need a couple, 2 or 3 surgeries in their life to repair something that has degraded to the point that it's become unstable. Mm-hmm. And it's doable, and people do it in the US all the time, but they're just not doing it here. They just are refusing to treat EDS, especially neurospinal complications. It's like they're trying to gaslight everybody to say, "Oh, we don't think that's very helpful." And it's like, how can you say that when people in the US are having this done all the time, and they are not cured of EDS, but they're able to possibly work part-time or have a humane quality of life? Do the things they like and love a little bit, cook, or, play music or whatever, and not be in horrendous pain. Like, EDS is one of the most painful conditions you can possibly have. You've got nerve pain, bone pain, muscle pain, many different types of pain, which is why I take, gabapentin for neuropathic pain, and Tylenol for bone pain, and opioids for like just the really bad neck pain. It's bad enough, but when you have like something that is actually unstable, like the pain of it, I can't even describe it. Like right now, I'm pretty heavily medicated in order to even be able to sit here and think and speak right now. And it scares me for my liver health, but I don't really have a choice.
Now you have a GoFundMe set up to help you crowdfund for the cost of this surgery that you so desperately need to have a quality of life. Is it experimental? Is that why BC isn't able to offer to you, or Canada? Is that part of the concerns?
That's what they're calling it. They're calling it experimental. And it's not really experimental as much as it is that people are all different, and they're having different outcomes. And some people aren't having the best outcomes, but it's often because it's left too long, and they don't fuse enough because they might not have enough money to do all of what they need. And they end up only partially helping and needing to go back for more and stuff like that. So they're saying, "Oh, that, it doesn't help. Look at that." But there's also been a lot of people that have really improved from the surgery, at least been able to get out of, that horrible, deep, nasty pain that all you want to do is go to bed and cry and not think. Mm-hmm. They are able to get their neurological system restored. And most important of all, their safety. Like, it's extremely dangerous to have this problem. I could just die in my sleep if I turn the wrong way. That's why I wear a big hard collar, because I turn the wrong way, it could cut into my vertebral artery and basically shut off everything. People need a multidisciplinary approach, and that's why I said 50,000, because 30,000 is the surgery, all the travel and everything. And then the other is the multidisciplinary aspect of working on the gut and the immune system and things that we don't want to interfere with healing, to just calm that so that the ligaments are not, impacted once again. They're never going to not be impacted a little, but to just slow it down, settle it down. It needs a multidisciplinary approach. And sometimes the mistake people make is that they don't do that. They just do the surgery. And that's where the problem is, really, more than that it doesn't work.
Well, we'll definitely link that GoFundMe link in the written report, which is in the description below for anybody who wants to take an extra look at that. And thanks for letting us know about EDS and shedding light on Canada's medical health system and British Columbia's as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you giving me a voice and letting everyone know that Canada is currently abandoning Ehlers-Danlos syndrome patients. And it's not okay. It's cruel, and it's costing people's lives. People have used MAID. There have been a couple of people that I can't really name that have, and a couple others that have just passed away in their sleep that I know of. And there might be more. If this just keeps continuing on like this.
Now, speaking of the plight to BC's healthcare system and the slowing down of services that are available, BC is still the only province that has had thousands of frontline healthcare workers fired and not able to help save lives due to their vaccination status. If that type of loss of freedom and illogical practices by politicians makes no sense to you, help join our fight to restore medical freedom in Canada. You can check out our special website called fightvaccinepassports.com. It doesn't matter what your choice to get vaccinated is, whether it is to have it or not, but what matters is that it is a choice. So go to fightvaccinepassports.com, make a charitable donation. It goes to the Democracy Fund, which pays for the legal fees for the many legal fights we're taking on to restore medical freedom in Canada.